The biggest film festival in the world is happening right now. Cannes just started last week, and between Tom Cruise and Pedro Pascal and this controversial red carpet dress code, there are a lot of stories coming out of the festival. The group chat's here. They have thoughts on all of this. Let's go. I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud, and this is Commotion. Look, I love everything that comes out of Cannes because it truly feels like another planet in a way. Some big headlines this year, like the mixed reviews for this new Mission Impossible movie, and then this reaction to a new dress code, which includes banning nudity on the red carpet. Simonpillai is here, Barry Hertz is here, and they're both actually in Cannes. Hello to both of you. How's it going?
Bonjour, hello, mon ami.
Nice. I see what you did there. I like it. I resent it. I'm mad at both of you for being in the south of France, but it's fine. Look, we'll get to the movies in a second because there's a lot to talk about, but I want to talk about this new red carpet rule, which is, Rad, I believe it was introduced specifically for you so that you don't appear nude on the red carpet. I think that's the rule here. Okay, so they're banning nudity on the red carpet, but also they're banning voluminous outfits, aka like dresses with long trains, and they're saying all of this has to do with decency reasons. What is the deal with the dress code, Rad? What is happening?
I mean, look, I don't know where the nudity thing came from. I figure like if the Cannes was probably like, look, if we're instituting new rules, we might as well, make sure that there's no Kanye, Bianca Censori on the Grammys red carpet situation and include that in our new list of rules. I think the more kind of the more practical rule that's changing things up is this rule where people can't wear like big long trains, which put me in the same boat as Halle Berry, where I couldn't bust out the big train.
Yeah,
I had to switch out outfits on that red carpet. And I think that rule is actually probably stemming from an incident last year, because there was an actress who had a long train that she was trying to unfurl over the stairs that had this big artwork, like a print of Jesus on it. And she got into a fight with the security guard who was trying to roll up her trains, like, move along, lady.
Oh.
So, and it was clogging up traffic. That was like one of the viral incidents of the many viral incidents from last year's Cannes red carpet.
Yeah.
And so I do think the train rule is stemming from that. But at the same time, I mean, you have to understand that this is just kind of like the latest in a long and fraught history of Cannes policing what people wear, specifically policing what women wear. Because, for the longest time, this festival insisted that women have to wear high heels. They actually once turned away a bunch of women who were wearing like rhinestone flats. And in protest to that, Julia Roberts walked the Cannes red carpet barefoot. Kristen Stewart did the same thing a few years later. And so they've since relaxed that rule. But yeah, this dress code that they do, it's the thing we still have to navigate. A Canadian Indigenous filmmaker once got turned away for wearing moccasins, which is his cultural footwear, on that red carpet. Me and Barry had to pivot trying to attend this stuff. Like I learned the hard way 2 years ago. When I was, showing up for the Killers of the Flower Moon premiere, I thought I was gonna be fine with my dark blue suit and to the bow tie. Found out 2 days before, it's like, no, you gotta wear a black tuxedo, black dress shoes, all that stuff. 2 days before the premiere, I found a 2-hour window to go get tailored at the last minute in Cannes for a new tuxedo, so I could attend this premiere.
I can't imagine what it does to you to go like, hey, it's great that you want to attend this premiere so you can write about it because you're a movie critic, that is your job. Go get a tux. Sorry, the suit will not do. It's certainly not sufficient. Yeah. Barry, you're at your first Cannes right now, for first time at the festival. You presumably had Rad's good advice to go, I need a tux to show up to this thing.
Yeah, no, I had Rad's good advice, and shout out to the good people at Moores near Yorkdale for helping sort me out. But it's, there is that sense of pomp and circumstance that comes with the red carpet premiere. And I admit I was skeptical going into it and hearing Rad's anecdotes about having to, put all this money into it. Yeah. But the thing about Cannes that I found very interesting so far is just, it is all about, in the end, treating the art of cinema with a sense of spectacle and reverence and, just elevating a little bit from, a typical TIFF premiere where you could get in with runners and nobody would say boo.
And as a matter of fact, and I do, Barry, and I do every time at TIFF. That's 100% what I wear to TIFF. Also, in the Cannes Festival Goers Charter, it says, quote, so as to not offend the participants' various sensitivities, political, militant, or electoral events or demonstrations are not permitted. Rad, there is a documentary at this year's festival that you feel this particular rule might be specifically speaking to. Can you talk about that? What's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know that the rule is specifically because of this film. I mean, there's a lot of political films at the festival, but certainly this is the film that comes top of mind when you think of a rule like that. And the documentary we're talking about is "Put Your Soul on Your Hand and Walk." This is a documentary about what's going on in Gaza. The main subject of the film is a Palestinian photojournalist named Fatima Hassouna, who she appears in the film in video calls with the directors, narrating what's happening. And 2 days after this film was announced to premiere at the Cannes Film Festival, Fatima and 10 members of her family were killed by an Israeli airstrike, okay? And her murder inspired an open letter that was signed by hundreds of actors and filmmakers, including Mark Ruffalo and Melissa Barrera, Guillermo del Toro, David Cronenberg. And they all of them in this letter, it was like, enough is enough, like enough with this genocide, enough with the silencing of those in the movie business who are willing to speak out against the genocide. This letter, it was basically saying it's long past due for Cannes and everyone in the film industry to take a stand against what's happening in Gaza. So it is very interesting that Cannes is premiering a film that's inspiring people to take a stand. That there are other films in Cannes that are also engaging the same subject, like Raoul Peck's new documentary also touches on the same kind of silencing that's happening. So there are films engaged with the current moment and pushing back against the silencing. But then Cannes wants to maintain that silencing and this sort of decorum, this superficial decorum, by saying no political symbols on the red carpet, which is, in my mind, that's speaking directly to someone that might wear keffiyeh or a watermelon pin.
I'm interested in this, Barry, because it does feel like Cannes is one of those institutions that maybe wants the red carpet and maybe the festival itself to be free of politics. But then sometimes you kind of look at the world and say, that doesn't feel particularly realistic. How realistic is it to say, create art, bring it to us, but also can you just keep the politics out of the red carpet and out of the festival?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little hypocritical at best, ignorant at worst. I mean, Cannes was established as an alternative to the Venice Film Festival, which was under control of Mussolini at the time. It is a progressive organization and institution at its heart. And to pretend that politics do not play a part in the creation of culture and vice versa, no matter the issue, no matter the side, is kind of putting your head in the sand a little bit and just trying to have it both ways. So I think we're seeing that in real time. If you can't program documentaries like this, and there's another one that's going to premiere tomorrow night on Julian Assange. I mean, they are very clearly making a play to be involved in the political conversation, but you can't shut out anything that is going to surround that.
My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud, and this show is called Commotion. Barry Hertz is here, Simonpillai is here, and they're both in Cannes right now. Actually, what you don't know is that they are literally in the same space. Barry is on a balcony, which is why we can hear the birds of the south of France, and it sounds real nice, okay? I'm not jealous at all. Rad, one of the big movies at Cannes this year is Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. The expectations for this movie truly through the roof. It's supposed to be the last of the franchise. What's your take?
Well, okay, let me preface this by saying,
just giving it a preface means you're not that excited, man. Oh no.
Yes, because I love the Mission Impossible franchise. Okay, like I think the Mission Impossible franchise is the best franchise. Like I don't think there's such a thing as a bad Mission Impossible movie. However, this one certainly tested that belief. Okay, and it's not that I didn't love and appreciate what this movie was going for, but it's just that it was going for a lot. One of those things, I mean, of course, it's going for the big, spectacular action set pieces where Tom Cruise is risking life and limb. Yeah. It also wants to speak to the current moment in terms of like how the internet is turning young men into trolls, basically. There's a whole subplot in this movie where there's radicalized young men becoming terror cells because of the villain, because they're following the villainous AI. And then, so the movie that wants to speak to now, but also wants to speak to and celebrate the past by incorporating story elements from the past 30 years of movies. Like, there's a guy that shows up from the original Mission Impossible movie, like, that dude's here. It's all part of this movie's, like, kind of, big victory lap. And the thing is, it's too much movie. There's too much going on. It struggles to bring all that together. It's the most convoluted and the most exhausting Mission Impossible. At the same time, when you kind of let go of when it kicks into gear and you could set aside those frustrating plot elements, it still gives you some of the most beautiful looking action that will run circles around any other blockbuster.
Barry, I'm so disappointed to hear this sort of tepid response to this particular Mission Impossible movie that I'm just going to move it right along and pretend I didn't hear any of that until I see it on Friday, because I refuse to believe that there's any hesitation about a Mission Impossible movie. And instead, I'm going to ask you about another big movie at the festival this year, The Phoenician Scheme. That's Wes Anderson's new movie, starring Michael Cera. Walk me through it. What do you think?
I mean, this on paper should be a delight.
Oh,
especially
come
if
on, you guys.
I know,
More
I'm sorry.
prefaces,
More
more
prefacing.
prefaces.
More
Come
prefacing.
on.
Okay, how about we'll get the good, out of the way here.
Okay.
Michael Cera is great in this.
Okay.
It's a shock that he has never worked with Wes Anderson before. There's sensibilities.
He
are
seems
so-
very Andersonian. Yes.
Yes, exactly. He walked out of an Andersonian picture book, basically. And they have been friends apparently for decades, but this is the first time they're actually collaborating. And it works. He has a great role, and it's kind of a little bit of a twisty role, too, requiring some turns there, which I appreciated. But the rest of the thing is just really emotionally empty. There's a black hole of empathy at the center of this movie. It's very picturesque. It's very extremely well art directed. It's everything you would expect visually of a Wes Anderson movie. But whereas something like Asteroid City or The French Dispatch actually had characters you cared about and kind of were exploring meta-contextual elements of like what film and storytelling means to Anderson, there's really none of that here. This is a lark, and kind of a dead fish lark at that.
Okay, the level of disappointment that I'm feeling in my body, the idea that you're like, there's a black hole at the corner of the soul of this movie. I'm like, should I even watch movies this year, you guys? The vibe, wow. But having said that, I want to talk about the movies that you are excited about, because Rad, I know you've seen Eddington, for example. That is a new Ari Aster movie. We promised the people Pedro Pascal. How is Eddington? Walk me through that.
I mean, it's a movie that got a lot of mixed responses, and I'm not, more preface, I am not someone who is typically an Ari Aster fan. Like, I was not big on Hereditary.
Yeah.
For the most part, I really dug Eddington. I mean, this is a movie that is, when we talk about movies trying to speak to the current moment, I mean, this is a movie that's set in 2020, specifically May 2020. It's, dealing with the pandemic lockdowns.
Joaquin Phoenix, Pedro Pascal. Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix, Pedro Pascal, Emma Stone, all in this. And, it's a movie that touches on specifically like the aftermath of George Floyd, kind of the virtue signaling, the allies that come up, the QAnon conspiracy theorists that always rally around Black Lives Matter causes. It's a movie that I think covers a lot, and it covers a lot, and also like flips genres and tones where, it could feel like a Coen Brothers thriller. It could feel like something much more absurd than that. It worked for me, except for, I do have a bit of discomfort. I want to see it again because of how, Ari Aster is not someone that could engage really with the horror and tragedy of George Floyd, and can only really use it as far as more of a prop, a plot element or a prop for his bigger satire. Yeah. And I don't know that there was a better way around that. That's what leaves me uncomfortable. But I thought it was funny and thrilling for me.
The idea of Ari Aster sort of taking on trying to explode out of the internal psychic horrors and sort of land somewhere external, that's automatically interesting to me. I'm curious about that movie. Barry, last word to you, pal. What kind of standouts do you have this year?
I think the biggest standout for me is what I saw late last night, which is Alpha, the new Julia Ducarneau movie. She's the French filmmaker who did Titane a few years ago, which won the Palme. Yeah. Spike Lee awarded that to her. And this one is just a magnificent kind of freak out that is less playing on like David Cronenberg tropes and more exploring like Clive Barker-ish ways of, trauma and love and sex and violence and haunting and all that kind of stuff. There's multiple timelines. It is very polarizing. I could tell already in the room, and some of the reviews out already have been just abysmal, but I was with it. It was the most powerful instance of filmmaking that I saw at the festival so far. It was enrapturing. It
is so extraordinarily movie critic to me that both of you are like, the movies are supposed to be crowd pleasers. I don't know about this, but the movies that are really polarizing in the room, I'm so on board with that. Like that's on brand for both of you, and that's just on brand for I think like the moment that we're in terms of filmmaking. I appreciate both of your time. Also, like I want to acknowledge that, like Barry, you mentioned David Cronenberg there. Like Canadian films had a pretty large presence last year at Cannes. You had Cronenberg, you had Guy Maddin, you had Matthew Rankin, had Universal Language. It's a bit quieter this year, which is why we're not talking about as many Canadian films. But I just want to say thank you to both of you for taking time out of your busy schedule in the south of France to join me here. It's been a pleasure. Thank you again.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, of course. Talk to you soon. Barry Hertz is the deputy arts editor and film editor for the Globe and Mail, and Simonpillai is a freelance film critic whose work shows up at the Globe and Mail, CTV, and right here on Commotion. They're both at this year's Cannes Film Festival in France. By the way, Mission Impossible, which you can totally pretend that you didn't hear Rad say that it was bad. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is out in theaters this Friday, May 23rd. I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud, and this is Commotion. The song that you're hearing right now is the winner of Eurovision 2025. It is Austria's JJ with an operatic tune called Wasted Love. This year, Eurovision was hosted by Switzerland, which is going back to the very first place of Eurovision. Very first Eurovision took place there 69 years ago. Look, I don't need to tell you. I don't need to tell you that Eurovision is a huge deal. It brings together dozens of countries, has just got a gigantic fan base all around the world. And despite its global profile, there's been so much effort to try to keep the politics out of this competition. It's not working. It is not working. All those efforts are not working. Joining me now to tell me why, Karen Fricker is here. She was there last week at Eurovision. Hello, Karen.
Hello. I'm just back yesterday from Basel, back in Toronto.
Oh, my God. There in the south of France. You were just in Switzerland. What a nice time.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, you never know what's going to happen at Eurovision, and this was a year like any other in that we did not know what was coming.
I was going to say, listen, you're a longtime follower of Eurovision. When our producer Amelia chatted with you last week, you're like, Sweden has got this in the bag. Everyone's expecting Sweden to be the country that wins. If they'd won, they'd be the most winning country in the history of Eurovision. They did not win. Austria won. Did you see it coming?
See this on my face? That is the egg on my face. Because I said, I believed the bookies. I thought the Swedish number is like completely crowd-pleasing, silly number set in a sauna.
Yeah.
What I was not thinking about was the fact that in order to win Eurovision these days, the vote is 50% public, televote, 50% expert juries. And Sweden did not do well with the juries.
Oh.
And so that's what tanked them, because it wasn't really that kind of song.
Right.
Whereas JJ, who you just heard, the song is aesthetically incredible. 24-year-old Filipino-Austrian classically trained opera singer who works in the area of operatic pop is what he likes to call what he does.
I'll say.
Yeah. And the voice is incredible. And he pleased the juries greatly. And then at the last minute, it's like, is the public going to come through for him? And they did. Down to the last vote, it was between Austria and Israel, which is very controversial. And at the last minute, he got enough public votes to win, which was a bit surprising because I didn't think it was a public vote song, but it got enough.
I want to come back to that in just a moment, because like that idea of it coming so close between Austria and Israel really was a nail biter, more so than the past few previous years. But how do you feel about the Austria song? Like, just as a song, as you experience that song, do you go like, yeah, this tracks for me as a Eurovision winner?
I have to say I wasn't a massive fan because I thought they really sandbagged it with an over-elaborate staging. They basically were making a music video, right? And which is totally fair. It's worked before, right? Yeah. And it's him on a boat at sea because,
yeah, it is.
The song, listen to these lyrics. I think they're really good. I'm an ocean of love and you're scared of water. You don't want to go under, so you let me go under. Ooh. So it's a real heartbreak song.
That's real dramatic, yeah.
And it's him on a boat. It's all black and white, and it's like he survives a tempest at sea in the song.
Yeah.
But I was like, come on. But then when the winner gets to sing a reprise, and he sang it without the staging, direct to camera. He is so charismatic, and you see this small young person produce this voice.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I'm completely convinced.
Right.
I was not convinced running up because I'm like, oh, come on with the staging.
In some ways, it was kind of like upstaged by the staging. It was kind of a little bit buried.
In my view,
Yeah.
but I think there is I know this, such a hard to define word. There's an authenticity, I guess, to the emotion in it.
Yeah.
That heartbreak is so profound. And then so him going up into that soprano range is kind of where the emotion takes him. So I'm sold now, but it's kind of my job to be sold in one Eurovision.
That I was going to say, like that's literally what you sign up for at that point.
Yes.
Okay, so as much as it tries to be, Eurovision sort of tries to, go like, hey, this is not a political competition. It's everything but political. But it is, right? Like, and people have no other choice but to bring politics into it. So last year, you saw massive protests in Sweden around Israel's participation in the contest. This year, Israel finishes second place, represented by the singer Yuval Raphael, who was a survivor of the October 7th attacks. What did you see there about how Israel's entry was received?
This was really interesting. It was a very quiet week. Like the politics last year were so present, and it was
Sweden,
very
yeah.
toxic. Yeah. This year it was super quiet. The night of, I walked into a pro-Palestine protest in the middle of Basel, like it was happening.
Yeah.
Police intervened. Then the Israeli song did poorly with the juries, but incredibly well with public voters.
Huh.
And now, this is rolling out yesterday and today. The Spanish, Icelandic, and Belgian broadcasters are now saying to the European Broadcasting Union, we need to talk. There's some questions being raised about how high the televote was. Can we see the receipts, please?
Wow.
So imagine our life flashing before our eyes in that kind of minute where we thought that more like 3 or 4 minutes where we thought Israel was going to win.
Right.
The contest would implode.
Right.
Because then it would be, because if you win, you host. So are we going to go to Israel?
Mm-hmm.
The Israeli broadcaster, I think, would absolutely welcome that because this is an opportunity to present Israel on a global stage.
Of course.
But I think a lot of participant countries and broadcasters and fans and the public would ask a lot of questions about whether it's appropriate to be bringing a massive global entertainment event to Israel in the current moment. So they didn't win, but they came a close second. And already there's a lot of questions being asked.
Just that has raised enough questions.
Totally. Yeah.
What's this about? There's an open letter going around. What's the story behind that?
There were about more than 70 past participants who circulated a letter, open letter before the contest saying, we don't think Israel should be part of this. And now Spain is very pro-Palestine in its politics. They put up text on their broadcast right before in support of Palestine. Before
the Israel performance, you mean?
Before the whole contest.
Okay.
And they are risking a fine because you're not allowed to bring politics into the contest. But that was out there for Spain. And now they're among the countries that are saying, like, we just need to know more about this outstandingly high televote.
I really, at this point, it feels like watching Eurovision is watching an organization do a dance every year to say, promise is not political, but also nationalism is involved. And I would say, like, they relaxed the flag policy this year. Do you want to talk about how the flag policy was different this year?
Yeah, it still was not relaxed for the competitors, but it was relaxed in the audience. I hope I've got that right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. So that you could wave the trans flag or the pride flag or the Palestinian flag in the audience.
Right.
Whereas that was completely
that was not
forbidden
allowed
last year, and that was a huge deal. So last year's winner, Nemo, who is non-binary, brought in a flag and kind of smuggled it in because it was so important to them. Mm-hmm. But to me, the Eurovision is interesting because it is political, but has to pretend not to be political. That's the tension that's kept it going for nearly 70 years. But at this point, because we're in the middle of 2 major wars, Russia was thrown out a few years ago, and Belarus.
Ukraine won. Ukraine won the year after the invasion.
Exactly. And although we can't know why everybody voted, it wasn't such a great song, right?
Yeah.
So people are casting votes not for the song.
Of course, it informs the sentiment, right? Yeah. I think we always try to do this thing where we go like but it's definitely not political. And of course, everything around you saying you can't keep the politics out of art is just not possible.
Yeah, and in particular, if it's a contest of nations where when the voters cast votes, they're not casting it for JJ, they're casting it for Austria.
Yeah.
So it brings that into the fore, which is why I got interested in the contest in the first place and why I keep on going back 20 years on, is because it becomes this kind of conduit and screen for global politics and European politics to be played out.
Well, Karen, I appreciate your time and I appreciate being here, friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're the best. Thank you. Karen Fricker was here with me in studio. She's a critic, editor, and academic based in Toronto and our very own Eurovision correspondent. Before we go, I just got to tell you, maybe you heard my conversation yesterday with Sophie Gilbert about her new book, Girl on Girl, How Pop Culture Turned a Generation of Women Against Themselves. Well, if you thought that book sounds interesting, we are doing a book giveaway. Head over to our Instagram. It's at Commotion CBC. There you can figure out how to win a signed copy of that book. My name is Elamin. This is Commotion. See you tomorrow.